Hello and welcome to the Friday Fresh podcast. As you know, we're in the midst of a revolution, in my opinion, but something different is happening in Kenya. And I think I was going to skip this week, podcasting this week, but I felt like it's very important to record this and have something to show for what's been happening because I feel like this is something that's actually historical. Maybe we look back and be like, wow, we started something, or maybe not. We never know. But I do believe that this is the beginning of something in the beginning. This is the beginning of something special. So let's just jump right into the first topic, which is the Reject Finance Bill 2024 protests that have been happening in Nairobi. On Tuesday, they happened, and on Thursday as well. And it's been really amazing to see how the response has grown. Tuesday, there was a bunch of people in town, but not at the same capacity of crowds that we've seen on Thursday. So it's just been really amazing to see all these young people come out and show their opposition to this finance bill. So just to take you back a little bit, the Finance Bill 2024 actually introduces several changes to various tax laws in Kenya, and this is going to impact income tax, it's going to impact VAT, it's going to impact excise duty. So it's not really something to celebrate. Nobody's celebrating this unless you're an MP who's been paid or something. But to be honest, nobody's celebrating this. Any ordinary Kenyan will tell you that they are not in support of this. Any ordinary Kenyan in their right mind. Let me just rephrase that. So there's a couple of interesting things that have come up with these particular protests because unlike before where you'd have like a political leader, we had the Maandamano protests last year and they were led by an opposition leader, Raila Odinga, and we're so used to when people are protesting or going onto the streets, it has to have something to do with a political party or whenever there are crowds of those numbers. And this is not to down any human rights activists because we have seen human rights activists and activists in Kenya, civil rights activists, actually coming out and protesting. But the difference with this protest was that it was very citizen-led, it was young people, and it was something that actually took off online and went to the streets. And stayed online even when it was on the streets. We were still live streaming, we were still seeing videos, we were still seeing photos. People were connecting and commenting in real time. So this is just, it's been something mind-blowing to see. So to begin with, let's talk about how various tools have been used by supporters of these protests. There's been a Finance Bill GPT that was created to explain in simple terms the implications of the finance bill to the ordinary Kenyan. And this, I think, was something that was really taken up by Gen Zs and people online because this was somewhere you could go and easily read what's this bill about without having to get into a lot of legal jargon. So that was one way that they raised awareness of it. Number two has been the use of Zello, which is an app that helps you use your phone like a walkie-talkie. So that's what people have been using on the streets during the protests to understand, okay, there are cops on this side, we need to move to that side, come and get some water over here. It's just been amazing to see how people have really taken up the digital space and used it in a very positive way to support the protests. Number three, someone started a whole move to translate and explain the finance bill in vernacular, in different vernacular languages. And the most amazing thing is people have taken up the challenge and there's now a whole group called Citizen Rise, and different people from different ethnic groups are explaining the finance bill and its effects in different languages. So it's all there. So check it out on Instagram, by the way, Citizens Rise. I will put the link on the description box so you can go and check it out. And another thing that's also been interesting is how we have managed to prove a lot of naysayers wrong. There have been, especially before the protests and after, in the middle of the protests, there have been a couple of people who had some words to, for example, John Kiari, who was a former comedian and now is a member of parliament, actually claimed that the pictures and the videos being shared were doctored and were not real and photoshopped. And yes, there was one picture that was an artistic piece. I would call it that, an artistic piece. And it showed like a bunch of Gen Zs with Gen Z t-shirts and colors. And it was just a nice picture that people were sharing with music. But I think maybe that's the only one he saw. I don't understand. But he decided that all the videos and the pictures are doctored and they're not real. And he goes into this spiel in parliament and talks down on the whole movement. This did not end well because on Thursday, the numbers were larger. Everyone was tagging him and saying, "Hey, KJ, is this the Photoshop you are talking about?" So it was really, it was really fun to see that. Then we had people like David Ndi, who I think mentioned something about, "Oh, you guys this is something that will never take off. It's just going to remain on Twitter." And to his surprise, like the kids were on the streets, the kids were protesting. The people that he thought have no political bones were out there showing that they are well read and they are ready to go and they know what's up. There was also another MP, but she basically was like, "Oh, I was talking to my niece and she said that it's just a TikTok trend and I was doing it for TikTok," which is not the case. If you have seen any videos of the young people on this march who are millennials and Gen Zs, they were quite well informed. Whenever they were interviewed, they really had a lot to say. They knew that they're fighting against something that is gonna affect them and affect their livelihoods, because also you've not created jobs for them.
7:30 in the morning to check for the safety of our siblings. We're the Gen Zs who are able to mobilize ourselves. We use TikTok as a space in our media to be able to not only have young people come to protest, but to also educate them on the why. But importantly, by the time we got here, we were arrested, we were harassed, we were assaulted, we were beaten up, and tear gas was thrown at us before we even started the protest. And hours later, 20 of us have been arrested. We're inside and we're singing and chanting songs that we practiced yesterday that we were coming to sing on a peaceful protest because we did send the letters. And this is quite unfortunate that we have to come out in numbers to do what exactly our forefathers did, walk a path that they walked before us, and have them throw canisters at us. It says a lot about the government, it says a lot about the leaders, but now here's the whole catch. We're young people, we're not scared, we're not moved, and this is only the beginning of the revolution. We're coming, we are many, and we're in good numbers.
So that was really interesting to see. Another interesting aspect of the whole thing has been the use of protest music. And it really got me thinking about how we've not had a lot of protest music in the last few years. And if we have, it hasn't been as popular as it has in the past. So a lot of the songs that were being sung were songs by Giuliani, which is a track that I just played in the beginning of this podcast. Just people singing on the streets. There was also a lot of people singing Eric Wainaina's Daima. And surprisingly, a lot of people have been singing the national anthem, I think, to just remind themselves that we are Kenyans, we're in this together, and we want the best for this country. The national anthem, the Kenyan national anthem, is actually a prayer. So we are basically praying every time that we sing it, and we want to see a difference. So next week, we'll know for sure what's going to happen with the finance bill, but already we are quite aware that majority of the MPs voted yes. Kenyans would have preferred if the finance bill was thrown out in its entirety. So here are just some of the amendments to the finance bill. So they removed the road maintenance levy increase. They removed the motor vehicle tax. They removed the early implementation of tax measures. They wanted to push it up to August instead of September. They revised the excise duty proposal. The import declaration fee increase was also removed. VAT on financial services was withdrawn. Significant economic presence tax was also withdrawn. The Data Protection Act, this was an important one because it meant that KRA could actually go into your records and your personal data. Let's just call it what it is. It's just an infringement of privacy. So the Data Protection Act was actually also removed. Withholding tax on goods supplied by public entities was removed. Objection review period. This is an interesting one. The committee had proposed increasing the objection review period from 60 days to 90 days, giving KRA more time to consider objections. This would delay the resolution of tax disputes, and this was also removed. So excise duty on mobile money and internet services was removed, and withholding tax on infrastructure bonds was also removed. Capital gains tax on family trust transfers was removed, and excise duty on edible oils. And the tax on imported products, which include pads and diapers is still in there. The VAT on cancer treatment is still in there. The changing of freehold land to leasehold is still in there. So there was progress, but very minimal progress. It was just, I think, band-aid type of progress to make people feel somehow, nice. Like, yeah, they're making change for us, but they're not really. No, they're not. No. So 204 MPs voted yes, 115 voted no.
First of all, I reject the Finance Bill 2024. Immediately, immediately touched around everything that touches the common person. That is the M-Pesa, the cars, the pads. And I looked back and saw the whole generation in Langata out here having their voices so loud. Even after the amendments, I had to make the choice that I've made today.
That was Langata MP Jalango. And there was also a very resounding no from Millie Odhiambo, the original baddie, as she's been called on Twitter.
Suba North, Millie Grace Odhiambo. Suba South.
There's a guy who stole a police horse and was seen galloping away to, I don't know, Ngong Hills or whatever. There's been the data commissioner giving a caution to people who are sharing MPs' numbers, and her own number ended up being printed in a reply post. And the thing that even begs the question is that why is the data protection commissioner coming to caution people, and they've not been protecting our data from scam artists? They've not been protecting our data from MPs when they're campaigning. During the campaign period, you receive unsolicited texts and so many other ways that you find your number being misused. But now is when you want to be like, oh, guys, please stop. Another hilarious thing that happened has been all the memes and tweets and everything that has been shared.
The pressure increase or decrease? Come again.
Increases, I think.
Increases.
And yes, it actually increased. The pressure really increased because by Thursday, in fact, from Wednesday, we had protests in Mombasa. By Thursday, there were protests in Eldoret. There were protests in Nyeri Town. There were protests in Kilifi. There were protests in Kisumu. So if you're talking about the young people not really having a voice in Kenya, that's about to change. The youth in Kenya constitute 65% of the population. The mean age of the Kenyan population is actually 19.9 years. So can you imagine how much power they hold? If they come together and actually say, we are not agreeing to whatever you're doing, we don't support this, we want to elect our own party like Senegal did, maybe we'll start seeing real change. There has also been support from people and entities that we least expected. Anonymous, the hacktivist group, actually sending a warning to the Kenyan government.
Greetings, citizens of the world. This is a warning message to William Ruto, the Kenyan government, and all members of parliament from Anonymous. It has come to our attention that there are discussions in parliament to pass the finance bill, which will unfairly tax the citizens of Kenya. Kenyans attempting peaceful demonstrations are being unfairly harassed, arrested, and shot at with live bullets by the police force under your command. Fortunately, several phone numbers belonging to members of parliament are circulating online. Soon, there will be an uprising of hackers, many of whom may reside in your home country. Your secrets may no longer be safe, and there is a chance that all these secrets will be exposed to show how corrupt and unjust members of this parliament are.
Anonymous is a digital hacker collective that are also referred to as digital Robin Hoods. And they have been notably in events such as attacks on the Church of Scientology, Russia, and even outing an international ring of pedophiles. So they have somehow taken notice of what's happening in Kenya and are warning that they will reveal some secrets that have been hidden by the government. And now to news from across Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in for a second term as South Africa's president on Wednesday in a ceremony in Pretoria. This was after the ANC decided to form a coalition party with some of their main opposition parties, such as the Democratic Alliance and the Inkatha Freedom Party, are part of the coalition. Others, like the third largest party by President Zuma, Umkhonto Wesizwe, and Economic Freedom Fighters, who are a leftist group, have refused to be part of the coalition. And as Kenya is increasing taxes, Senegal is actually reducing them. The new government unveiled measures to reduce the price of rice, oil, bread, and other basic items to address the cost of living. And amid, the employment rates and inflation, President Bassirou Diomaye, who was swept into power in March, vowed to address the high living costs in the West African nation. And Tanzania is planning on making some moves on Kenyan soil, with 6 Tanzanian companies being amongst the several farms that are showing interest in partnering with the government to operate the SGR, standard gauge railway. On to music. We are listening to protest music courtesy of a collaborative playlist on Spotify by Kenyans called Zama Pambano. So this playlist features songs by Eric Wainaina, Pandu Hutumo, Mudhoni Drama Queen, Sauti Sol and Yashinsky, Giuliani, Gidigidi Majimaji, King Kaka, Waire, and so many others. Make sure to check it out. I'll put the link down below. And I guess it's just another way for Kenyans to make the best of a bad situation. So we've come to the end of the Friday Fresh podcast. Have a great weekend, and let's keep it Friday Fresh. Hit the subscribe button, share, follow, all the good things. Bye.